Hey guys, welcome to my studio. Recently I had the opportunity to paint for a couple hours straight and I wanted to use gouache, so that is what we're using today. The other day when I was taking a walk, I decided to take some photos around my neighborhood of different things like bugs and trees and rocks because there's a forest like really close to my house. And so we get a lot of really cool wildlife and it just makes me really happy to walk around. And I wanted to take some pictures of it so I'd have some reference for future drawings. I've been thinking a lot about my art lately, specifically where I want to go with it, like what subjects I want to focus on. It basically just comes down to I want to start creating more work that's important to me rather than just things I think look pretty. Like, I want to make pieces that reflect kind of my view of the world and how I feel about it. Like how I feel about what I see. I love creating characters and I love drawing cute things just for the sake of it, and I don't think everything has to have meaning, but it is something that I want to start focusing on. And lately, I've been really drawn to all different forms of life, so like plants, bugs, other wildlife like foxes and deer and humans and the universe. It just fascinates me that we're all here at the same time in the same place. And I think subconsciously I've been thinking about that and wanting to capture that feeling of awe and excitement that I feel when I think about that. I want to capture that in my art, and I don't think I realized it until now. So now that I'm thinking about it more, I have a lot of ideas and it just makes me feel really excited to create in general. For the past while, I've been starting some larger pieces and I just haven't been able to really finish them. And I think it's because I didn't really have a direction. I was just drawing whatever came to mind without really thinking about it. So I guess I wasn't like passionate about it. And because I didn't have that passion, I couldn't stay focused on it for long enough. Like, obviously I love doing small doodles and like I love doing little sticker designs and drawing cute things like for my Patreon and stuff, but I don't really think I can focus on making like big completed artworks of things I'm not passionate about. And that's always kind of been a problem with me. Like, I'll start something and then I get bored of it kind of quickly and quit because the passion just isn't there. But I think I'm finally starting to not only gain back my love of art and the desire to make more and to like really challenge myself with like different mediums and different subject matter, but I'm also just feeling passionate about what I create. So I want to just keep that going by drawing things that are important to me. And part of that is finally forcing myself to become comfortable with painting traditionally. So I tend to flip-flop between digital and traditional art, and I really do love both of them. Like, I think they each have their merits, and they're just as good for different reasons, but I just feel such an urge to grow my traditional painting skills, and I've felt this for years. It's kind of like a need at this point, like it's an itch that just won't go away. And I think it's partly because I'm just tired of looking at screens 24/7. I'm just an office peon, so staring at a screen is literally my job. So I do it all day. And I think that if all the artwork I made was digital, I would literally be doing nothing other than staring at screens all day during the week. And I just can't live like that. I have to start wearing office glasses that have like slight magnification, because if I don't wear them now, at the end of the day, I just can't focus on anything and I get these really bad headaches because of spending all this time staring at screens. And I think that's ridiculous. So I want to step away from screens. And I've done that a little bit. Like, I'm not really on social media anymore, but I mean, I still go on YouTube. So I'm not completely off of social media, but I do spend a lot less time on it than I used to. But it's still too much. And I think that's at least partly why I'm so drawn to traditional art right now. I just kind of want to get away. I'm actually going camping with my family this weekend, and I'm really excited about just like getting out of town and going into the mountains for just a few days and kind of being one with nature. And I want to keep that connection with the earth that I feel when I go on hikes and camping trips and any sort of outdoorsy activity, like even when I ride my bike. Even when I go on walks, like little walks around the neighborhood. But drawing and painting with traditional mediums gives me a taste of it, even when I'm just sitting at home with screens in my face. So yeah, that's that. I didn't really expect to go on this whole tangent about how I'm feeling and wanting to be like connected to the earth and all that. But it is just how I've been feeling lately. And I've been starting to art journal a little bit and kind of just look deeper within, because I think I spent a lot of the past 2 years thinking about other things, like things I have to do, how I need to like take care of my kid and take care of my house, and all that stuff that I haven't really been thinking about myself and what I need, or rather what I want to get out of life outside of my family, if that makes sense. So I've just been starting to think about stuff like that, and I feel like I'm getting somewhere, and I'm excited about it. But I don't think I have anything else to say about that. So I guess I'll just talk about the actual artwork that I'm doing. So this first painting that I'm working on is this really cool rock in my neighborhood, and it's got a whole bunch of moss on it. And I've actually used it, like I've harvested moss from this same rock before to make it's like a wooden board that's also a picture frame. You can get them at Michael's. They look really cool. It's like a slice of a log, and I got a bunch of moss from that rock, and then I dried it out, and then I like glued it all to the log, and it looks really cool. And I've had it for a few years now, and it's held up beautifully. But yeah, I got the moss from that rock, and it's got a whole bunch of new fresh moss on it now, as well as like a bunch of other plants and some leaves. So I wanted to honor it in a painting. And I really didn't know what I was doing. That's kind of the theme of this whole sketchbook spread. It's just me trying things and hoping that they work out. I just started with a wash of gouache, and like a really thin wash that's kind of almost like watercolor. And I'm very impressed with this sketchbook. I wasn't sure how it was going to hold up because the pages are pretty thick, but it's definitely not watercolor or even like a mixed media sketchbook. It's definitely supposed to be just for dry media. But I ended up putting this little sheet of paper behind the page because it was buckling a lot, and I didn't want to risk any of the color like bleeding through, which I don't think it even did. Yeah, it didn't bleed through at all, which I was very impressed by, especially because I was painting pretty wet in the beginning. But yeah, so I just did a thin wash of gouache, and then I started slowly building up the layers. I think in the past when I've done paintings in gouache, I've gone too thick too quickly, and it just gets all goopy and gets really hard to layer. So because of that, I think some of it looks kind of muddy, and it also took me a while to figure out like the color scheme that I wanted to go with. I think it was all over the place for a while, but in the end, I think it kind of came together in harmony. So yeah, I like how it turned out. And after working on the rock, I started working on the little bug underneath, and apparently this is called a milkweed bug or milkweed beetle. It's just this cute little red bug that was actually on some wild lettuce, which is just like another type of weed in my yard. I do have milkweed growing, but it hasn't flowered yet because this is the first year that I planted it. But I guess I don't know, something's attracting the milkweed beetles because I've seen them before and I just think they're so cute. Like they literally have a heart on their back and that's just too adorable. So I took a picture of that little guy and I wanted to paint her. Again, it's really just me experimenting. That's kind of just the theme here. I'm just experimenting. I wanted to get the paintings in a place where there's enough information that you know what's going on without seeing all of the details. And that was my goal for this little painting session, and I think it went pretty well. Like I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out. And I definitely want to keep going because this is the most fun I've had with gouache in a while. And I think that's because I was just really loose with it and I wasn't worried about how it was going to turn out. I was just painting, and yeah, it was fun. Gouache is neat. I really like gouache. The last thing that I worked on was this flower with a bumblebee. No, it's not a bumblebee. It's either a carpenter bee or a mason bee. I'm not sure which one, but it has a smooth little spot on its back, so it's not a bumblebee, but it is fuzzy like a bumblebee. And I have these aster flowers. I have a whole bunch of them growing in my front yard, and the bees just go absolutely crazy for it. So I'm seeing them all over the little aster. It's actually the thing that you saw in the very beginning of this video, that little clip. That's the plant that I'm painting here. And this one was the messiest because I wasn't originally going to paint it completely. I was just going to do a thin wash and then go in with colored pencils and finish it, because by this point, like I painted this all in one session, so I was getting pretty tired by this point, especially because I haven't painted like for this amount of time. I think it was like 2.5 hours, something like that, but I hadn't painted for that amount of time straight in a very long time. So I was getting pretty fatigued. So I was pretty messy at first, and I kind of regret that because I don't really like what I did with the background. I wish it was a little more intentional, but that's okay, you live and learn. I did take a short break. Like I made myself tea and got a little snack, and then that kind of revitalized me, and I decided that I did want to finish painting it in gouache instead of using colored pencil. So I don't think there's that much to say about this one. I just went from thin to thick, just like I did with the rock and the bug. Like the colors were kind of all over the place. I do have rules set in place though. Like yellow and light pink are usually my go-to highlight colors, with lime green sometimes depending on like what I'm painting. And then I use blues and purples for the shadows, like always. But I do kind of want to experiment a little more and maybe start using green for shadows some more. And I don't know, maybe something else for highlights, just to mix it up a little bit because I think a lot of my art kind of looks the same, which is not really a bad thing. I mean, that is part of what makes someone's style their style. But yeah, I want to experiment and see what happens and where I go on my painting journey. This flower took a bit to get where I wanted it to go because it's just, I mean, it's a purple flower with thin petals, so it's kind of hard to shade, and the middle part has a lot of details, so I struggled a bit with figuring out how many details I wanted to add because I didn't want to go too crazy, especially because at this point I was pretty tired and I didn't want to work on it for too much longer. The bee was pretty easy because it's small and it doesn't have a lot of details, and it's just cute and fuzzy, and I think fuzzy things are pretty easy to paint because I tend to like, I make those movements with my paintbrush anyway that you'll see when I get to the bee, but it's just like little tiny, it's like a bunch of little tiny dots, and I tend to do that. I guess it's called stippling, like where you just like do a bunch of little dots, and I don't know, for some reason I like to do that when I add highlights especially, but sometimes when I add shading too. But yeah, so I painted the flower and the bee, and then I added a little bit of the clovers because there's some clovers growing as well in the little like aster patch. And then I added some stars for no reason at all. I just thought they would be cute. And that's pretty much it. I don't really think I have anything else to say. So enjoy the music, enjoy the rest of the video, and I'll see you at the end. Here's how everything turned out. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know what you would like to see me paint, because it would be pretty cool to get some inspiration. But yeah, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! And as always, thank you to my super awesome patrons, Harry Hamster, Subside, Nene, and Mikey. You guys are super duper awesome and I really appreciate your support.